I returned earlier than expected and silently eased the door open. My name is Jason, and I want to share a wild situation that completely shook up my life not too long ago. I'm 35 years old and have been married to my wife, Alyssa, for 15 years. She's 37, and we have a son together. Alyssa used to work as a cashier at a gas station, which was especially tough during the summer when the highway was packed with travelers. She would come home exhausted, too drained for intimacy, often preferring to just sleep. Now, Alyssa is a stunning woman. Even at 37, she has an incredible figure, tiny waist, curvy in all the right places. Maybe that's why, after all these years, I'm still insanely attracted to her. And yeah, I'll admit it, I get jealous sometimes, even though we've been together for so long. For the most part, we lived a calm, easy life. But then, her boss switched her to a rotating schedule, and that's when things started getting strange. First, she changed her hairstyle, dyeing it blonde. I didn't mind. It suited her. Then, a few months later, she suddenly got really into fitness and swimming, spending all her free time at the gym or pool. I tried to be supportive, but something about it nagged at me. One day, while tidying up, I found a bright red set of lacy lingerie with some provocative cutouts. My stomach dropped. She had never worn anything like that for me. That evening, I asked her straight up, "Who's this for?" She looked down and mumbled that it was a surprise for me. I wasn't sure whether to believe her, so I insisted she put it on that night. To my surprise, she didn't refuse or dodge like she usually did. In fact, she seemed eager, almost too eager. We ended up spending the whole night together, just the two of us. But instead of feeling reassured, I felt even more uneasy. Some guys might say I was being ridiculous. My wife was suddenly all over me, dressing sexier, buying lingerie, wearing makeup, using fancy lotions. But deep down, I was convinced there had to be someone else. I started checking her phone messages, social media, emails, nothing. I even requested a log of her calls and texts. Still nothing. That's when I turned to a coworker of mine, who's a bit of a tech genius. I didn't outright say, "Hey, I think my wife's cheating. Help me spy on her," but I did ask if he had any software to track digital activity. He handed me a flash drive with a sneaky app, showed me how to install it, and gave me some tips. That night, I was too busy at work to do anything. When I finally got home, Alyssa was waiting for another wild night. The next morning, my suspicions deepened when she left for work wearing a top with an incredibly low neckline. She never dressed like that before, not even when we were dating. I asked her why. She simply said, "It makes me feel more confident." I couldn't take it anymore. That evening, I rushed home to install the tracking app. I followed my coworker's instructions exactly, but I found nothing. No hidden accounts, no suspicious messages. That's when I realized she might have a second phone. The next day, I tore our whole apartment apart looking for one. Again, nothing. The only unusual thing I found was a stack of books in her drawer, books about intimacy, exploring new fantasies. At this point, I was completely lost. A close friend noticed something was off and asked what was wrong. I told him everything, half expecting him to laugh. And at first he did. But then he said, "Dude, why don't you just come home early one day and see what's going on?" It was so simple. Why hadn't I thought of that? The next day, I told my boss I was feeling sick and left early. When I got home, I heard music coming from our bedroom, slow, sultry music. My heart was pounding. I crept closer, opened the door, and there she was, Alyssa, completely naked on our bed, moving to the music, filming herself on a webcam. In one hand, she held, let's just call it a toy, one I hadn't seen before, nor had I found during my search. I couldn't watch another second. I clapped my hands loudly and shouted, "Bravo!" She jumped in shock, scrambling to turn off the camera. Then, she burst into tears. Through sobs, she admitted she had been doing explicit live streams for about 3 months. Some viewers even sent her money. But she swore it wasn't about the cash. It made her feel free, confident, empowered. Everything those men wanted to do with her, she had been bringing into our bedroom. I felt sick, humiliated, worthless. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm, insisting she loved only me, that she'd never physically cheated. "Why do you need strangers watching you to feel sexy?" I asked. "Why not just dance for me instead?" She wiped her tears, mascara smearing down her face, and whispered, "Because it doesn't give me the same rush." That answer froze me. I pulled away, stepped out onto the balcony, and lit a cigarette, my mind racing. On one hand, she hadn't technically been with anyone else. But on the other, it felt like a betrayal. Eventually, she promised to quit, if only to save our marriage. We spent weeks apart, but as crazy as it sounds, I found myself missing her. I couldn't stay away. I came back. Now we watch more adult films together, experiment a little, explore new things. Sometimes I still get a knot in my stomach thinking about what I walked in on. But somehow, this twisted situation brought us closer. I'm not sure if this is a happy ending, but at least we're confronting it together.